Welcome back, and let's continue our course with the discussion of the ideas of modernization and westernization. So what is modernization? Well, in social theory, modernization is the idea that societies move from pre-modern or traditional into modern or even postmodern societies. We hear the word modern thrown around a lot, and it doesn't really have a specific definition in most cases. But for us as sociologists, what modern means is complex and communities that are defined by large markets and not immediate relationships between two people. One of the most significant sociologists to explain this phenomenon was Ferdinand Tönnies, who was a German sociologist during the 19th century. His idea was that societies moved from what he called Gemeinschaft, really small communities based around social connections between individuals, into Gesellschaft, which were more complex societies based on complex relationships between one another. If you think about your own society, you have complex relationships with institutions like the legal system, the police, community organizations, so that you might see someone on the street and you have no idea who they are, but you understand their role in society based on their uniform or based on their conduct. And that's an example of a modern feature. That might be how we determine what a modernized society looks like. There are a lot of criticisms with this idea of modernization, though, because it implies that there is a natural progression from pre-modern to modern, and that all societies are on this progression from pre-modern to modern. So you could understand how someone in politics might use this thought to say that it's acceptable or it's right for modern and advanced societies to colonize or take over pre-modern societies, and that it's a natural progression. In fact, a lot of colonists used this philosophy to justify colonization during the 19th and 20th century. Now let's discuss briefly westernization. And it's important to make a distinction between westernization and modernization, because a lot of times we culturally use them interchangeably, but from a sociological perspective, they're quite different. So, what is westernization? Broadly speaking, it's the adaptation, the taking on of Western, and that is to say European or American attitudes all across the world. So when we typically think about westernization, we're looking at Eastern hemispheres, parts of Asia, adopting attitudes from America and from Western Europe. Those attitudes might include cultural practices, they might include dress, they might include food. When we see McDonald's restaurants, 7-Eleven spreading across Asian cities, that is an example of westernization at work. But you could see how that might be misconstrued as modernization, because they also reflect an attitude of disconnected communities or larger, more complex societies. So the two are often closely related, but when you're trying to distinguish between them, make sure you focus on attitudes and cultural practices that are derived from Western Europe and America, and how they're adopted in societies outside of those regions. One of the criticisms of the idea of westernization is that we can often use the term, or people can often use the term, to describe any advancement in societies outside of Europe and North America. What we see across Asia during most of the 21st century is incredible economic development, and critics of that economic development, or perhaps those politically aligned with the United States and Western Europe, view that progress as westernization, when in fact a lot of those ideas and those economic systems are more reflective of Eastern culture than they are of Western culture. So I think the term is being used less and less in general publication as we recognize the lessening influence of Western culture, North American and European culture on East Asian societies.